Most people are taught that beliefs are the engine of human behavior. We are told that what you believe determines how you act, how you decide, and ultimately how your life turns out. This idea is repeated in the schools, books, therapy rooms, and motivational speeches until it sounds unquestionable. But when you look closely at real human behavior, this explanation collapses. Beliefs are not the starting point, they are the explanation we invent after something deeper has already happened. What actually runs the show is the nervous system. The body reacts first, and only afterward does the mind step in to justify the reaction. Human beings like to think of themselves as logical creatures. We like to believe that we weigh options, assess facts, and then make rational choices. In reality, the process works in the opposite direction. The body senses safety or threat in milliseconds. Muscles tighten or relax. Breathing changes. The eyes blink faster or slower. The posture shifts. Only after these signals are already in motion does the thinking brain begin to speak. It creates a story that makes the reaction seem reasonable. That story is what we later call a belief. The cortex, the most evolved part of the human brain, functions less like a commander and more like a press secretary. Something happens inside the nervous system, and then the cortex writes an explanation that sounds coherent. This explanation gives us the comforting illusion of control. We say, I believe this, therefore I acted that way. But the truth is closer to I felt something, and then I explained it to myself afterward. Once you understand this, you stop taking beliefs at face value. You start seeing them as outdated software written to protect the system at an earlier point in life. Consider how most beliefs are formed. They are rarely the result of careful reasoning. They are usually born in moments of emotional intensity, especially in childhood. A child who is humiliated in front of peers does not sit down and logically conclude that speaking up is dangerous. Their nervous system records a spike in threat. The body learns that visibility equals pain. Years later, the adult avoids speaking in meetings and calls it a belief about introversion or professionalism. But the belief is not the cause, it is the justification layered on top of an old safety response. The same pattern appears in countless forms. A young person who is shamed for their body does not analyze social standards and decide that desire is wrong. Their nervous system associates attraction with disgust or danger. Later in life, they struggle with intimacy and label it a belief about morality or standards. Someone who is punished for telling the truth does not philosophically decide that honesty is overrated. Their system learns that truth leads to pain and that deception leads to survival. The belief that lying is necessary comes later, written to defend the behavior. When you view beliefs this way, they lose their authority. They are no longer sacred truths that define identity. They become old strategies that once kept the system safe. And like any outdated software, they can continue running long after they are useful, slowing performance and distorting reality. The problem is that most approaches to change never drop below the belief layer. They argue with the stories instead of listening to the body that created them. The nervous system does not lie. It cannot. It speaks through physiology, breathing patterns, muscle tension, facial expressions, posture, eye movement, and vocal tone reveal what a person is actually experiencing in real time. These signals show you what the system believes about safety long before the mouth forms words. This is why two people can say the same sentence and mean entirely different things. The words are surface level. The truth lives underneath. Once you learn to observe this hidden layer, everything changes. You stop trying to convince people logically and start understanding what their system is protecting. You stop debating opinions and start recognizing safety programs. Every argument, every resistance, Every shutdown follows the same structure. Someone feels unsafe, unseen, insignificant, or trapped. Their system reacts. Their mind creates a story to defend that reaction. And both parties argue over stories while the real issue remains untouched. This is why traditional influence often fails. It speaks to the mask instead of the being. It addresses logic instead of physiology. It assumes people are choosing freely when most choices are reflexive. When you interact with someone at the nervous system level, the difference is immediate and unmistakable. Conversations stop feeling random. Reactions stop feeling personal. You can feel when a system softens or tightens in real time. Once you experience this, there is no going back to surface level interaction. At this depth, judgment disappears. Not because you force yourself to be compassionate, but because judgment no longer makes sense. You see that people are not being difficult, they are being protective. They are not irrational, they are regulated or dysregulated. You begin to see that approval functions as currency for some people, safety functions as a compass for others, and shame functions as a prison for many. These forces are visible if you know where to look. Influence at this level is not manipulation, it is alignment. It is the ability to meet the system where it is instead of demanding that it operate differently. If you want to change someone or change yourself, you stop talking to the mask and start interacting with what is underneath it. The mask is what people think they are. The being is what actually moves them. To do this effectively, you must understand the core structures that drive human behavior beneath language. The first structure is needs. Needs shape social behavior at the deepest level. They are not preferences, they are requirements the nervous system demands in order to feel stable. The primary needs that dominate human interaction are significance, acceptance, approval, strength, and intelligence. Each person organizes their behavior around one or two of these more than the others. A person driven by significance needs to feel impactful and distinct. They are sensitive to being ignored or minimized. A person driven by acceptance needs to feel included and welcomed. They are sensitive to rejection or distance. A person driven by approval needs reassurance that they are doing well. A person driven by strength needs to feel capable and unbreakable. A person driven by intelligence needs to feel competent and mentally respected. These needs form early and reveal deep fears and unresolved experiences from childhood. What makes these needs powerful is that they are visible. You can spot them quickly if you know how to watch. The way someone speaks, pauses, defends, jokes, or withdraws all point back to a dominant need. You do not need years of therapy to see this. You need attention and training. When you misread a need, conversations fail before they begin. When you meet the correct need, resistance drops without force. The second structure is decision pillars. Decision pillars dictate how a person chooses, not what they choose. They are the filters through which all options are evaluated. The main decision pillars are deviance, novelty, conformity, necessity, social influence, and investment. Each person relies on one or two of these consistently, often since his childhood. A person guided by deviance moves away from rules and norms. A person guided by novelty moves toward newness and stimulation. A person guided by conformity looks for what is accepted and proven. A person guided by necessity waits until action feels unavoidable. A person guided by social influence looks to others for validation. A person guided by investment commits once effort or resources have been placed. If you present a choice using the wrong pillar, it will not land. You might think the person is a stubborn or uninterested, but the truth is simpler. You are speaking a language their system does not use. This is why sales fail, arguments escalate, and relationships break down. People assume the problem is persuasion when the problem is perception. The third structure is values. Values point toward the future a person is chasing. They are not what people say matters, they are what behavior consistently moves toward. The most common end values are freedom, recognition, connection, growth, experiences, and information. These values determine what success feels like to a person and what loss feels like. Some values carry sadness when seen clearly. Many people place obstacles in front of themselves, not because they want to fail, but because chasing feels safer than arriving. If someone's value is growth without resolution, they may unconsciously avoid completion. If someone's value is freedom, they may recoil from offers of connection. If someone's value is recognition, they may sabotage peace. When you misunderstand values, you create friction without realizing why. When needs, decision pillars, and values are aligned, influence feels effortless. When they are mismatched, nothing works. You might offer acceptance to someone who needs significance and watch them shut down. You might pitch conformity to someone driven by novelty and watch them walk away. You might offer connection to someone who values freedom and feel them pull back. These failures are often dismissed as bad luck or numbers, but they are not random, they are predictable. The moment you learn to see these layers, interactions transform. You stop hearing only words. You start seeing insecurities in breathing patterns. You recognize needs in pacing and emphasis. You sense decision styles before questions are answered. You notice when someone values safety over freedom or recognition over connection. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Arguments collapse before they start because you understand what is actually happening. You are no longer reacting to tone or phrasing. You are responding to the system beneath them. This is what it means to be in a room that others are blind to. It does not make you superior, it makes you responsible. At this level, influence leaves a mark. One path leads to being forgotten. The other leaves a fingerprint on someone's nervous system. People may forget what you said, but they do not forget how regulated or seen they felt around you. This applies to leadership, relationships, negotiations, parenting, and self change. It is also important to understand that this is not about becoming perfect. Humans are messy systems. Everyone carries outdated software. Everyone runs safety programs that no longer serve them. The goal is not to eliminate this mess. The goal is to stop judging it in yourself and in others. Judgment is often a way to avoid seeing our own patterns. When you get better at seeing what is actually happening, compassion becomes practical. You feel better about yourself because you stop fighting your own nervous system. You feel better about others because you understand what they are protecting. From this place, change becomes possible. Not forced change, but organic change. This is not self help in the traditional sense. It is not about confidence slogans or positive thinking. It is a behavioral operating system. It explains how humans decide, comply, resist, or fold under pressure. It explains why conversations feel unpredictable until they do not. Once you see behavior from this angle, life stops feeling random. You begin to recognize that influence is not about control, it is about clarity. It is about seeing what is real instead of what is said. And once you have that clarity, everything you do becomes more precise. You speak less and land more. You push less and move more. You stop mistaking the mask for the person. And when that happens, you will wonder how you ever lived without seeing it.